Welcome to my review for Deus Ex for the PS3. Now, I probably shouldn't say this. I would really recommend you watching Yahtzee's zero punctuation review of this game over at The Escapist. I think he did a great job summing up everything that needed to be summed up for this game. As for myself, I'm going to do a lot of comparison between this game and the first Deus Ex game, which happens to be my favorite game of all time. So this is actually the third Deus Ex title to be released, the second one being Invisible War. I wasn't so big on the second game, mostly because I could never get the thing to run properly on any computer that I had. It was always either choppy or it was crashing and I just couldn't get into it. But when I put this one in, right from the start you could tell that they were trying to emulate the feeling of the first game. And they did a pretty good job at emulating that feeling. The way it looks, the way your character moves, everything right away just seemed to scream, yes, this is a prequel to Deus Ex. And I really hope I'm saying that properly. I'm never really sure, and since I've said it a lot, hopefully I haven't butchered it too much. So does this game outdo its predecessor? I don't think so. I think part of it was, at the time, the original provided me with an experience I had never had before with any game. Going into this one, I was kind of already expecting it, so there wasn't that shock and awe value of not really realizing what I was going to get myself into. It was very nice, though, getting myself back into this world. A world where you had options as to what you could do. And it wasn't just the option of A or B, you could kind of mix and blend the two together very well. What I mean by that is, you can go in planning on shooting down everything in your path, which is fun, or you could take the route of sneaking around, trying not to get noticed at all, using the most enormous air vents that any building has ever had in such plentiful and convenient locations, or you could do both. And thankfully the game doesn't punish you for mixing it up. So if you decide, I want to try and sneak by everybody in this room without getting noticed, you can do that. And if you screw up, it's okay, because you can retreat and try again, or you can say, screw it, I'm just going to mow everybody down. It's also been a while since I played a game which can be considered a first-person shooter, to give you the option to have more than just a couple weapons. Oh yes, I can have my handgun, and my automatic rifle, and my heavy machine gun, and my rocket launcher, or maybe a sniper rifle. The point is, you get a nice selection of weapons that you can have on you at all times to suit whatever situation you're going to find yourself in. Where I felt they could turn things up a notch in this arena is to provide a few more futuristic type weapons. You get a couple, but considering how big this game really should feel, I felt like I got to carry a good portion of the types of weapons that are even out there. And a couple of the more advanced ones were saved right till the end of the game, where I didn't really get a chance to utilize them. Some additional melee weapons would have been a nice touch as well. A greater selection earlier on would only add to the replay value that this game already has plenty of. This game does throw in some RPG elements, and these come in the forms of augmentations. But I noticed a distinct difference between the augmentations this time around compared to the original game. For this title, there were so many augmentations I found that were just kind of automatic. Now in the way that's kind of nice, but with the additional variety I felt was in the first one, and the ability to use them like tools that you can turn on and off, it really helped with the feeling that you're choosing a path to go down and preparing yourself for the right situation. And in some categories there seem to be an awful lot of augmentations. There are tons just for hacking computers. They do come in handy, absolutely, and it does make it much easier to do the hacking that you'll need to do, which could allow you to turn off security cameras so you can sneak by, take control of security bots and security guns, turn them on your enemies, and get extra experience points. A lot of the time, though, the hacks just let you get into computers so you can read some email. And although there are tons of things you can do to get more narrative out of the world that you're in, from reading those emails to reading newspapers, reading ebooks, I didn't put this game in to do hours and hours of reading. There's also offensive and defensive augmentations for battle, but it's missing some of the ingenuity that the original had. One of my favorite ones to use in the original, as it had far more bots for me to get by, was a drone that I could launch, and it had a camera in it, and then you could self-destruct, creating an EMP blast. The ones here are pretty standard: upgrade your armor, run faster, walk quieter, those types of things. They also seem to combine the augmentation with the skills that was in the first one. In the first one, there were two separate things. You had your augmentations, which again for the most part were your tools for dealing with the path you've chosen, but you also had your skills that you would spend your experience points on, such as marksmanship and increased efficiency with melee weapons. So it felt like they narrowed the scope a little bit to tone down the RPG elements. And although I did have a lot of fun playing this game and enjoyed myself quite a bit through the experience, narrowing the scope seemed to be somewhat a theme with this game, because the world feels smaller too. Amazing as it might sound, I felt the world of the original Deus Ex over 10 years ago was bigger than the one presented here. I shouldn't make it sound like they didn't bring anything new to the table at all, because that's not entirely true. The takedown moves, which are a mix of lethal and non-lethal attacks, are fun to watch, and there's enough different types of animations to keep it enjoyable to do. Although some of the other animations that you'll find in the game, the one that comes to mind is when you can upgrade yourself to punch through weakened walls to get to hidden areas, reminds me an awful lot of the type of animation that I might have seen on Path of Neo for the PS2. Or maybe it was just the trench coat he was wearing, which was another weird thing. In addition to all of his augmentations, the trench coat seemed to come and go, and not just in between areas, it was in between cutscenes. I swear I'd have my coat off for an entire level, but then in the cutscene it's back on. It's like he has a special augmentation, not unlike his mechanical sunglasses, where my trench coat gets sucked up into my back or something.
This company prides itself on maintaining a safe environment and an ethical...
Voice acting, like the first game, I thought was very well done, but also, like the first game, the only voice that really tends to get annoying is the one of the lead character, trying to go for that dark, dangerous, raspy kind of voice the whole time.
An asset, huh? I guess that's the right word. I can't say I'm a big fan of being shoved around and shared like a stapler.
A state-of-the-art, multi-million-dollar stapler, Mr. Jensen. There's no reason to be insulted.
Everyone else seemed to sound much more natural. Deus Ex Human Revolution feels like a great homage to the first title. It's an engaging adventure with a decent amount of activity to do, and a pacing I really enjoyed. It makes shooting up a room fun, and it makes sneaking around in dark corners even more fun. But despite that fun that I had with the game, knowing that this is a prequel to the original game seems quite fitting, because it also feels like a predecessor to everything the first game was able to deliver. The good news is, if you've never played the first one, you're really not going to be missing out on any of the story. And in either case, it's definitely worth trying out.
Shit!